All righty, district breakdown time. Look at that. That's the award-winning Matt Diggs. All right, Inside High School Sports Insider and pulling home trophies by the boatload. And we're going to talk 5A Division One before he gets on a rampage about the awards he's won. We're going to talk about this yet another 9-team district, but this one doesn't seem like it may be as competitive as some of the other ones we've talked about.
You know, I like to unify all of the awards. I'm like the Roman Reigns of high school football. But at the end of the day, I'm more interested in districts like this than some of the other districts we've already talked about because there's such parity in my eyes from 2 to 6. And to me, that makes it interesting because even when we're talking about 2 to 6, it gives 7 to 9 a chance to be competitive. And I love watching teams like a Molina or a Turner or a Sunset that's just historically written off have a chance to be competitive against teams around their skills. So if Molina or Turner or Sunset as a young freshman, sophomore class are going to get a chance to get better, and maybe by next year we'll be talking about them in the playoff race, which I think is incredibly fascinating because you have a chance for mobility. Now, I realize that's not the best case scenario for Timberview because Timberview only gets 2 non-district games, and I think they're going to be favored by 4 touchdowns in every game they're going to play, and that's in the middle of the district. The bottom of the district, they'll get to name their score, but at the same time, as we've seen with Lancaster and some other teams, that could be problematic in Duncanville at times. That could be problematic when you roll through non-district or through district in a way, only have 1 or 2 non-district games very early on, and all of a sudden you're looking at Frisco ISD, then you're looking at some really good East Texas or Houston area teams in the second round, and all of a sudden you're not prepared. And I don't know how good Timberview is going to be this year relative to the way they were last year. I know they got Alito to kind of sharpen them up a little bit last year. This year, they're not going to have that in district. And will they be better? Obviously, they're going to be looking at their stud running back, Jarvis Reed, to carry them. But they graduated their quarterback, Jaden Marshall. So who's going to step in and be the next big Timberview Wolf to lead them at quarterback? This team has some questions for me. Now, it's not, are they going to win district questions, but can they go 3-4 deep? I don't know.
And like you said, you can't dissect those issues you may have in the district play. I mean, Coach was talking to me, as we'll see a little later on. He's saying you go through those games. Usually, you like to go to the film room and talk about what you did good, what you did bad. He's going to only talk about the things that did bad because what you did good may have been against a player that was 2 or 3 calibers lower than you. So it's a difficult situation. Let's talk about those middle 2 through 6 teams. I'm most interested in Birdville, who's been down the last couple of years. Are they a team that you can see bounce back and pick up some wins here?
Yeah, I have Richland too. Coach Cates is a very good coach over at the Royals. I think he's going to do good things. They have a very young running back who's expected to shine. I think he's going to get on our radar in the next couple of years. Michael Turner, probably don't have much footage on him, but he's an up-and-coming running back for Richland. They've got a really good offensive lineman, Daniel Cruz, so I think will be very helpful for them. I think they're number 2 just because I like their coaching staff and I like their depth relative program numbers relative to some of the other teams. Birdville has a real chance to shine. I think Birdville is wondering in that intra-Birdville ISD matchup, why not us at number 2? They've got a really good offensive line. They've had really good offensive line. They've just been overwhelmed by some really good districts. Ethan French, Josh Bedford are a couple of players I'm looking at when I'm checking out things early. They got a good wide receiver, Colton Clement, who I'm going to be keeping an eye on this year. But really 4 to 6 for me has so much changes. W.T. White has a new coach, and I think that's partially because Coach Tony Johnson, had a good chance to go to Copperas Cove, but I also think that he kind of maximized what he can do at W.T. White. And just in fact, W.T. White named their new coach within the last week, Kenshi Ross, fantastic, brilliant mind as far as the former offensive coordinator, knows the program. So how will he be able to do, because Coach Johnson was more of a program guy and a program builder, and just an award winner over at W.T. White. And obviously Kenshi Ross getting to be under that learning tree, I think is going to have a really good chance to come in and be successful in that district and with that team. Quarterback Jaden Sisk, I think, has a chance to be very good at W.T. White. but a lot of questions. They were very senior heavy last year, and I think that's part of the reason why I think Coach Johnson decided now was the time to leave. Brian Adams, they're getting their footing. Coach Lawrence over there has had some experience. They got a couple good players, Jacob Carter coming back and Kirby Lewis. But how are they going to compare it with depth? Because they graduated heavily as well. They were very good last year. In fact, under the radar in many ways, how good they were. But a lot of those are seniors. A lot of them are graduated. So how are they going to be? And Newman Smith is always the great unknown. I think Newman Smith has one of the greater chances year after year based on what they can do with that program. Because this is a school that most people know now as a basketball school. They are incredibly talented there, which lets you know they have athletes walking the hall. And what Coach Russa did a few years ago in getting that, I think it was 2011 when they made a really good run, 3 rounds deep with that team. And now they've got a new coach and they're doing things over at Newman Smith. They're always an X factor. I always keep an eye on Newman Smith every year, especially spring football and 7-on-7, because I think they have an opportunity to always be good with the talent that they have walking the halls over in Carrollton.
And then we get the bottom 3 teams, and I know Sunset and Molina don't, they struggle with the numbers to get people out to play the sport. But Sunset's got a good tight end. I was doing some research on Joseph Guevara. He's actually a big, solid tight end. They can get the ball, but do they have guys to get him the ball is the question.
Yeah, and that is the question. And Sunset, and these are the things I like to look at a granular level. Sunset was better last year, and Sunset had an opportunity to be competitive for a playoff spot at one point. Now by the end of the season, it didn't work out for them. But you could see in non-district that Sunset was a team that was getting better. R.L. Turner is very similar to them as well. So I think that they can be competitive with the bottom 3 there with Molina, Turner, and Sunset. I think Molina's going to be down. I think Turner and Sunset are going to be up. And really, at the end of the day, when I always look at tiers, and I always look at what I think, how many touchdowns apart. And I said at the very beginning, I thought Timberview was 4 to 5 touchdowns better than that middle tier there. I only think that the middle tier from 2 to 6 is only 2 to 3 touchdowns better than that bottom tier, that Sunset, Molina, Turner tier, which is a very workable situation if they get some young talent in there, if things work in a way to where a couple of turnovers, you might see a Sunset Molina Turner win over a Newman Smith Brian Adams kind of a team, and that could completely shake up the district.
Well, let's talk about your top 4. Let's kind of review it. You've already told us about 1 and 2, but let's talk about 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Absolutely. I'll give you my full 9 because I'm just that kind of benevolent, nice guy. I got Timberview 1. I've got Richland 2, Birdville 3. I'm in love with Newman Smith. I'm going to constantly overpick them. I know my friends at White and Adams are going to be upset about that, but I'm always going to overpick Newman Smith because I think, like I said, every year, if they just get the right players in there, they have a chance. They got the talent walking the hall. So I'm going to slot Newman Smith number 4. I got WT White 5, Brian Adams 6, and I'll have Molina 7, Turner 8, and Sunset 9th.
Well, there you have it. That's going to be a tough battle in the middle there, but we'll see. We pretty much both agree on Timberview doing whatever they want to win that district. We will talk about the Frisco schools in Sherman next week, and as we go into 6-5A Division 1.
And that'll be the fun question is, will the 4th place team out of that district be good enough to beat Timberview, especially since Timberview, as we talked about, won't have – but we'll talk a little bit more about that next week. But I think Timberview could be on upset watch for the first round.
Here we go. Getting some good stuff here in April. All right, Diggsy, I appreciate you joining us, man. We'll talk to you later.
See you down the road.